Adam Copeland, John Dickinson along momentarily here as the 49ers back-to-back weeks now have just been overmatched and dismantled and blown out on the road. First in Green Bay last week, 38-10. Today, 35-10 at the hands of perennial Super Bowl contender Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen with one of the greatest plays you'll ever see with some help from Amari Cooper, where he catches a pass on the outside, throws it back to him. He runs in for a touchdown. A ball in which it was so bad for the 49ers, Josh Allen both threw a pass that he caught for a touchdown in the stat book in the same moment, in the same play in this one, as the Niners fall 35-10. Now, John Dickinson is out in Buffalo at Orchard Park, who was on hand for this one in a snow game. By the way, I don't know about anybody else. I know people were texting this in and talking about this on the YouTube chat before the game, that it was going to be much more snowy than we anticipated. The snow started to fall, I think, about 45 minutes or so before JD and I got off air, which meant it was nearly 2 hours before game time. But by the time the game hit, it was a snow-filled field, and the 49ers, certainly with the injuries and the skill set they had out there at the hands of the snow and the Buffalo Bills, felt the wrath of this one. JD is with us live from Buffalo. What's up, JD? What'd you see in this one, dude?
Happy to have you back. What's going on, Copes? How you doing, man? Just getting set up here in the press box. Yeah, man, another rough one, man. Things went awry when Christian McCaffrey went down there in the second quarter, and the 49ers never recovered, and then it ends up being a blowout and an ugly look for a second consecutive week here on the road.
It's frustrating and hard to ever be like, oh, you expected to see this one. I mean, this was the game kind of everybody sort of thought it could be, and it just kind of ended up score-wise being the game that I think we would have expected if the weather weren't like this. The way the Bills, I don't think they moved the ball exceptionally well, but they took advantage of mistakes by the 49ers. The Niners multiple times did not operate the way they needed to. The fumble in the red zone comes to mind, of course, but we'll talk about Christian McCaffrey. That's probably the one thing that's going to stand out from this one, especially because Christian McCaffrey, maybe for the first time since the Super Bowl or before the Super Bowl last year, kind of looked like himself for a couple of runs. Had a few huge spurts, carried a few guys, looked like, okay, maybe this is a game where the 49ers can get something. You forget at one point they led 3-0 in this game and a couple of times forced some 3-and-outs, and the injury is just devastating. It's not the end-all, be-all to what this season has been or maybe will be. You wonder what it could mean for his future and for the 49ers' future, but much like last week, to your point, JD, there's a lot of things that went wrong in this one.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it did start out along the lines of the type of game that the 49ers were going to need to play if they were going to be able to hang in and give themselves a chance to win it. Sure. They force a 3-and-out on the first series, and then to your point on McCaffrey, the 49ers go down, they kick the field goal. He has a run of 6, a run of 19, back-to-back runs on that first series, 6 and 19. Then Jordan Mason, who everybody's been clamoring for to get more run, he busts off a run for 11 yards. And then even after the Bills had scored to make it a 7-3 game, on the series where McCaffrey ends up getting injured, he breaks a 12-yarder and an 18-yarder that everybody thought was going to be a house call, and that was the play where it looked like the PCL injury happened. And then the next play that he's in, he went out for a play. Mason had the 4-yard loss. There was the play where Purdy threw the interception, but it was an illegal contact penalty on Damar Hamlin, and then McCaffrey just goes down. Non-contact, goes down, wasn't feeling right, but it was that prior play on the 18-yarder
where he got tripped up when he got from the ankle. Is that where? Because I'll tell you what, it's funny is on the replay, and maybe it's adrenaline, maybe it's just the moment. On the replay when that happened, I sort of thought, and I think I was watching with Derek, Papa, and Tim up at the Showdown in North Beach. We were watching the game, and I sort of thought, based on the way he went down into the slide and based on the way he walked off the field, and again, we're no doctors, and we're just watching from TV and sideline angles, and you're watching from the press box there in Buffalo. But I thought by the way he walked off, with knees, you never know. Sometimes guys can stabilize it and it just feels okay, or there's adrenaline. Sometimes it's like with an Achilles, sometimes guys immediately will go back down. Couldn't really tell what it was. But I was a bit surprised that he stayed in, came back out for a play, and then went back out because maybe he was testing it out. But originally he just looked like he was upset that he didn't break that one off that he was looking to break off. I thought maybe it was even a bang because he went down kind of hard. Maybe it was a bang knee was almost the hope. Like you hope it's not anything structural.
Yeah, and it looked like that. Like it looked like that very much could have been the case. And he goes out, comes back in, and then just immediately doesn't have it, right to the blue tent. At that point, being in the press box here in Buffalo and not really having maybe as good a look as even the people on TV, I'm wondering, and I think everybody here was wondering, did the Achilles go, considering the nature of that injury throughout the course of the season? And then he ends up walking to the locker room and under his own power, and so I think at that point it didn't seem like it was circulating that it was the Achilles, and then they announced knee right before the then after the half that he wouldn't come back. Originally listed as questionable to come back, and of course Kyle Shanahan with the note here in the postgame press conference that it is in fact a PCL injury, potentially season-ending, although Kyle did say, typically that's a couple of weeks, even if it's the non-long-term PCL. So we look at the 49ers with the game next Sunday and then the next game 4 days after that. I think at a minimum at this stage, could be a lot worse, but at a minimum they're not going to have him for these two games against the Bears and the Rams.
Which is, everything was going to be an uphill battle from here, but what you certainly did not want to see is any kind of injury to McCaffrey that was going to be season-ending, Achilles or otherwise. If it's a knee injury and it's a PCL, there's no better or worse in this situation. It's a double-edged sword here. You don't want it to be either Achilles, of course. They would be into next year. And you just don't, a 28-year-old running back, you just don't want to see some major injury happen to a guy at this point and his career at this point where the 49ers are in their hopes to maintain this championship window. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. Niners fall 35-10. Christian McCaffrey leaves the game with a PCL injury that they're uncertain of to this point. We'll get some imaging, I guess, and find out what the damage is.
Yeah, and just real quick, I think the hope now, the sort of the best case scenario is they're going to have to win a couple of games without him, and then if they can get to 7-7, then we'll see, right? That next game after those two at home is 3 weeks from today. So if it is the non-severe PCL type injury, the Niners would still have to win. If they lose either one of these next two games at home and McCaffrey's return is, let's say, iffy, like, hey, it's not something where it's a couple of months, maybe he could be back in 2 to 4 weeks. If they lose one of these next two at home and take that eighth loss, it immediately becomes for who, for what, right? There's the risk-reward just doesn't add up, and then you would just shut him down. Even if it was only weeks as opposed to maybe a month plus, you would shut him down at that point anyway. So I think that the best-case scenario, in a sense, before we get more information tomorrow and over the next couple of days, is the 49ers would hope that it's only these next two games next week and Thursday, and that they could win them both and then possibly give him a chance to play in Miami 3 weeks from tonight.
49ers fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We want to hear from you. We talked last week about your level of faith in this team after last week's game, and I think a lot of that depended on the future of Brock Purdy, but to see Christian McCaffrey today do what he did for the first couple of drives and feel like, I said it out loud to Derek and Tim, man, he kind of looks like the McCaffrey that we haven't seen. There was a couple of burst runs where he shot through some holes. He carried a couple of guys, and to your point, the one that he ends up getting hurt on is a play that looks like he's going to break one towards the end zone. Niners led 3-0 in this one. Where do the Niners go from here? How you feeling? Is there a thought that this window has closed? Is the talent just not where it was? Deebo Samuel, a couple of great kick returns. We saw that last week, and then one sort of phantom holding call gets called, and the kick return right after the end of the first half gets called back in the game last week. But there were some spurts here from guys that we hadn't seen this year. But as far as where this team goes, defensively they're not there. At one point, Fred Warner left the game and ended up coming back, but they were overmatched, and they've been overmatched by the most talented teams in football, and they haven't really played that much better than some of the worst teams in football.
No, and you look 10 points in each of the last two games. At Green Bay, 10 tonight. They get blown out in this one. And we can talk about offense or defense. I think offense in the conditions you can understand, but I keep coming back to the defense. And look, that's not to absolve the offense by any stretch, but the defense just has not. This is another game, Copes, where the Bills just punish the 49ers. 220 yards rushing. James Cook was over 100 with time to spare in the first half. Davis ended up with 63. Josh Allen was able to make plays when he needed to make plays, including the play where Amari Cooper flips it back to him for a touchdown.
Was that one of the coolest plays you've ever seen? That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It was incredible. It was an incredible play. It reminded me of the kind of thing that what the Warriors would do in their heyday, where they were just clowning on everybody. Yeah. Like there would be a broken play that should be, joke's on you. Actually, no, it's not. We're going to turn this into the most disrespectful, just eye-popping, dance on your grave type of a play.
And by the way, Amari Cooper's catch, hit him in the wrist, and he hauled it in. Reached full arm extended, brings it in, and then laterals it back, which we were discussing fantasy-wise. If you have Josh Allen, you should be getting credit, and I think Field Yates tweeted it out. It goes down in the box score and the way the play shape out is a passing touchdown for Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is the receiver on the passing touchdown. So he doesn't get credit for a reception. That goes to Amari Cooper for 0 yards. But the lateral to Josh Allen means he threw a pass in which he caught for a touchdown. Didn't catch it, but he scored the touchdown.
Amazing. Yeah, and here's the amazing part. So I'm looking at the box score right now, and I'm sure you have it. But so in the receiving category, right, you've got Knox and Shakir and Morris. You've got everybody with targets, receptions, right? Knox, 2 targets, 2 receptions. You go down to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is on the receiving portion of the box score, 7 yards and a touchdown. No targets, no receptions.
Because he wasn't targeted.
It's hilarious.
It's
hilarious to see, and he did it all. He had the rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, and passing touchdown, the trifecta, which Christian McCaffrey, if you remember, had a couple of years ago against the Rams in his first full game.
Yeah, after the Chiefs game, he showed up. He played in the Chiefs game, 22 snaps, and he does all 3 in that one. And that was 2 years ago. And this one was tonight for Josh Allen. And unfortunately, it happens at the hands of the 49ers. Let's get you the stat of the game, sponsored by Poppy Bank, located throughout California. Poppy Bank is here to help you hit your financial goals. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Why do we make it the turnovers? We talked about it. If the Niners were to win this game and we look back, by the way, they didn't. That was a bad call by us. But if they were to win it and they look back, what would they have done? Well, you said win the turnover battle 3-0, and the Bills took advantage of every one, and they flip at the hands of the 49ers. So they didn't score off of every one. At one point, after the fumble, I think the Niners had a 3-and-out. Dude who was at the bar with us goes, oh, well, you didn't lose that much. I mean, you got the 3-and-out on them. They didn't score. And we thought, well, yeah, but you lost 7 points that you were going to score and get back in this game. So the 3 turnovers to none for the 49ers, and it's continued to be an issue. I think we'll make that the stat of the game, JD.
Yep, second week in a row, too. We talk about, hey, if you got a shot, you got to win the turnover battle. Second week in a row, they end up 3-0 to the negative in the turnover battle, and just some complete momentum crushers as they were trying to potentially get back in the game.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you, JD, live from Orchard Park. You are listening to KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station, and that is a legal ID. 49ers fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo as things go from bad to worse. They lose Christian McCaffrey now to a PCL injury. We do not know the status or the significance of the injury. Could be a few weeks, could be the remainder of the season. If it's significant, could be even longer than that. We'll talk more about this one. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, Larry Krueger will join us a little bit later. 35-10, Niners drop another one in Buffalo on the Sports Leader.
I think our goal was to run the heck out of the football, keep Josh Allen off the field, and I think we did a really good job of that, but you have to score points. We had 3, and then we had an opportunity to have 6 or 9 or whatever it was. We got to score on touchdowns in the red zone. That's how you stay in these in the games versus really good offenses, and we didn't do that early on. I think a 55-yard kick in a blizzard, that's tough. I definitely believe Jake can make that stuff. We're leaving points out there, and then all of a sudden, hey, we get lapped. We leave points out there with a turnover. What do we have, 3 turnovers again? It's hard to win football games when you're not scoring in the red zone. You're turning the ball over.
Undoubtedly, George Kittle, following a 49er 35-10 loss to the Buffalo Bills. I don't even the kick, Jake Moody. I was wondering this when he missed the first one, and I certainly was wondering it when he missed the second one. 55 yards, by the way. The second one looked like the wind was it's raining sideways. It was blowing sideways when they showed the angle of it from behind the goalpost on television. Just didn't have enough juice on it. Jake Moody's got enough leg to make a 55-yarder easily. And I know he's had his miss problems. One of my friends texted me about it when he did miss, going, oh, man, it's a nightmare. And I thought, I don't know what anybody thinks the percentage should be in the snow, but I can't really, JD, what do you think on average inside of 50 yards a kicker should be making? What's your expectation, percentage-wise?
Well, I thought tonight he should have made the 44-yarder.
I thought so, too.
55-yarder in that. Yeah. In those conditions, the 55-yarder to me tonight specifically is a one-off. I think anything over 50 is. I tend to look at anything over 50 as just not a gimme. So we have to look at the circumstances. Are you inside? Are you outside? What are the elements dictate? Anything over 50, though, I know kickers are making them over 50 at the highest rates they ever have. But anything over 50, I look at as not a gimme.
But he missed short, and that's when I thought, okay, the condition, if he's going to miss short, we know he has 55 leg. I know he hasn't been as accurate this year, and he missed 3 in one game, and people stress anytime a kicker misses a bunch. My point is, to what you're saying, anything over 50 anyway, I'm not totally expecting. I'd like a 51. I don't like Robbie Gould to attempt a 52. I felt like they were never attempting anything of that range before. That would have even been a thought
but at least
today.
you know.
But at least you know
he's not going to do it.
Right.
So, it helps you.
So with Moody today, I was like, if he makes that, that's found money, I think. The 44 they needed to have, and he missed it left, right? So it wasn't or did he miss it right? He missed it. I can't remember. He pushed it.
Missed it left.
Missed it left. Yeah, he hooked it. My thought is on the 55, I wasn't expecting to have it, and those are points that are left out there. But, again, I'm more concerned with the ineffectiveness in the red zone and the ball security, plus the turnover margin. It's been problematic.
Yeah, it has. And you look at, McCaffrey goes out of the game, and then, you had Mason who broke off a couple of runs here, and then you've got, the 49ers choosing to give the ball to Kyle Juszczyk. And I know Juszczyk hasn't fumbled, but inside the 5-yard line there, they run a handoff to the fullback. And look, it was a great play by the defense, but I think that's another one of those plays that really, and I think they said it on the NBC telecast on Sunday Night Football, it really is the 49ers season in a nutshell, right? They're knocking on the door. They're trying to hang in a game that they've been dominated, really got swallowed up for a stretch after the McCaffrey injury and the long touchdown run and everything that went into that. They're about to kind of stabilize the game, and then boom, they hand it off to a guy because McCaffrey's not in the game, because Jordan Mason maybe had been banged up. They try to give it to Juszczyk. Juszczyk's the one who coughs it up, and it winds up going back the other way. So if it's not one thing, it's another thing for the 49ers here, and it's just been, just over and over with the miscues at the worst possible times when they're barely trying to hang on. And I think the question was at that point, I think it got asked to Kyle Shanahan, Mason was in the game at that point. I think there was some thought that Mason was out at that point. I thought Mason was in on that play where they handed it to Juszczyk. And I think the question is, why not just give it to Mason at that point? Almost like the 49ers maybe got a little cute, although I know Juszczyk hadn't fumbled since 2020. The last time so many things went wrong for the Niners in a season was also 2020. So a little parallel universe there as far as where the 49ers stand here with this season just completely getting off the rails.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk, the fumble from Juszczyk at the Buffalo 4-yard line. He takes it, by the way, to the 1 before he fumbles, and it does look like Mason was in right before that on that drive. He had run it a couple of times, so Mason was in there. He he was there. That was the play they ran to the fullback. And again, we made the stat of the game, the 3 turnovers. We'll make that the difference maker of the game. Sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference. And our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. And by Abundant Life Weight Loss, call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 is the number to call. 35-10, the final. The 49ers fall at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. Where are you, 49er fans? Are you up in arms? Are you just agitated? Are you thinking, all right, finally? I got a few texts today, JD, saying, I think that's it after the McCaffrey injury. And I thought it was going to be kind of an uphill battle anyway. Seattle won again today. The Rams won again today. You got teams pulling away from you in the division who you don't own tie breaks over. And while you mentioned before the game there was a path to the playoffs, even through the division for the 49ers, I mean, again, you haven't seen anything to indicate, this is a good team losing some close one-score games. It's a team that seems to be reeling and kind of tailing out now due to the injuries. Again, Trent Williams, second straight game missed. Nick Bosa, second straight game missed. Demo Lenore out today with an injury. Charvarius Ward had a really tough day. It looked like he was just getting back into the swing of things. It was a rough day, I think, defensively for Charvarius Ward. And then you get fumbles from Debo, Kyle Juszczyk, Brock Purdy, 3 guys who you need to hold on to the football. The penalties last week, the turnovers this week. I mean, the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. When they lost to the Ravens on Christmas last year, you think, I don't want the Niners to face a contender potentially like that and perform the way they did. But when it happens and you'd see them play as great as they had throughout the year, come back from some injuries, we haven't seen any of that, which is what makes all of this so tough to palate, I think, for Niner fans.
Yeah, and they've got to find a way at this point. And look, I think that's the big question from this week to next week when they face the Bears. It's can they find enough fight to believe that game matters, right? They could win that game and have it still not matter in the grand scheme of things, but do they stick together, or do we go out to Levi's next Sunday as they take on the Bears, and it's apparent just based on their effort and execution and the way the game plays out that they were just done? Like next week to me, and I'm sure we'll spend a lot of time talking about it this week and in the lead-up Sunday on the pregame, next week is going to determine whether or not this team winds up maybe 9-8 and misses the playoffs, whether they have a chance at that, maybe sneak in, or whether or not the thing completely goes off the rails and they wind up 7-10 or 6-11, right? Like I think that's the story of how many guys are able to come back. If it does get announced during the middle of the week that McCaffrey is going to be out for the year, is that the type of a gut punch to where everybody just kind of looks around and is like, all right, this thing's done? Do they specifically continue to keep players out to maybe not risk any level of future injury? Those are all going to be the key things here. But I think the biggest thing is, can Kyle Shanahan rally the troops enough to where they believe that they can still – everybody kind of looked at this week and last week as the last stand. The true last stand, Copes, is Sunday and Thursday. If you can't win both of those games – then it's over. Then it's pack it in. Then it's focus on the future. Then it's don't bring anybody back who's injured, and you just start to evaluate who's going to be around and who's not moving forward. I'm not quite there yet, as bad as these last. So
you believe there's reason to look forward, even that you believe that they can still win the division, and I mean mathematically, of course, but
yeah. Well, yeah, I just think it's worth. I think, and look, 49er fans may disagree with me. You may disagree with me. The Niners themselves may prove to disagree with me, but I think there is still, as bad as it looks bad, and you're right, all the things you've laid out, there's nothing really that you can hold on to say, oh, they've done this well, and this is why it gives you some optimism. Regardless of that, I still think there needs to be one more. We need to see one more fighting last stand of a chance for this team next week against the Bears, and really the 2 games against the Bears and the Rams. And then you see how they come out on the other side. And if they don't win both, again, I'll be right there at that 8th loss saying, all right, pack it in. The rest of these games are just for show.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to run the table here if you were the 49ers to finish 10-7. And that's ultimately what it's going to take, I think, to win the division at the very least. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you, who's live from Orchard Park. 808 KNBR is the number to call. 49ers fall to the Buffalo Bills 35-10. Are you with JD? Is there still a glimmer of hope for the 49ers at running the table here, or are you a pack it in? Christian McCaffrey's gone down now. Don't mortgage the future here for the 49ers. 808 KNBR is the number to call. We got more for you after the Niners fall to the Buffalo Bills 35-10 on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all saw what he was doing, and he was on fire, man. He looked great, hitting the holes hard and bouncing off guys and making some really explosive plays, and that's huge. And so, obviously, when you lose a guy like Christian, it sucks. And so, hopefully, we can get him back soon. And but I thought JP and Isaac came in and did a good job too. So, but yeah, I mean, it sucks. He's one of the best running backs in the league, and when you lose him like that, I think it takes away just sort of how we do some things within the offense. But it sucks.
It's Brock Purdy, 49ers quarterback, after the Niners fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. JD is live from Buffalo, where JD has gone to get real cold and watch the 49ers score 20 points over the last 2 weeks and give up 73. It has not been good for John Dickinson or the 49ers, at least in terms of viewership. Brock Purdy, by the way, not a great game today. And in the snow, you never know what you're looking at, but 11 of 18, fine, I guess, percentage-wise, but 94 yards, gets 5.2 an attempt. Josh Allen did go 13 of 17 for 148, but as you said, JD, threw one, caught one that he threw. I guess he didn't catch it. He threw one, and he scored on one that he threw after the lateral from Amari Cooper, and he ran for a touchdown where slips by Fred Warner and gets into the end zone, and the Niners get hammered yet again. Let's get to the Protecting the Quarterback, sponsored by the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for a new career in law enforcement at cocosheriff.org today. And sponsored by Planet Orange, effective, eco-friendly pest control. Niners did not record a sack in this one. So, again, Nick Bosa not out there. And, again, I don't know how big of a difference he makes in this one. We talk about leveling the playing field when the weather is bad. It certainly didn't feel level today. Seemed like the Bills were the much better team. They didn't make mistakes. They took advantage of mistakes. And for 2 weeks in a row, really 2.5 weeks, if you go back to the second half of that Seahawks game or the final drive there where Geno Smith just felt like he was not going to get hit, felt like he was free to run and do what he needed to do in the pocket to beat the Niners. They have not been able to generate a pass rush without Nick Bosa.
No, they haven't. And look, this the more talented team won the game tonight, and the Bills really they did it in all phases. They ran it on the Niners again in a big way. I thought that was the story of the game. Really was the fact that Cook had over 100 yards before the halftime, and the 65-yarder was the big one. Really, this thing gets away from the 49ers, and we talked about it in the first segment. They were running the ball effectively themselves, which I think at the outset looked like it was going to give them a chance, but they go down 7-3. McCaffrey gets injured. Moody misses the field goal right after that. And then, boom, James Cook, 65-yard house call in a blink right there. 49ers have to punt, and then all of a sudden it felt like that to me was the game. Those sequences where McCaffrey goes down after nearly breaking a house call himself, Moody misses the kick, and then Cook takes it in from 65 right away. You're thinking, uh-oh. And then it was right off the rails. Then the pressure was on. Then the crowd was into it. Then the 49ers had to punt again, and the Bills were able to go down right before halftime and on the big third down conversion. What a throw, by the way, that was on the 3rd and goal from the 7 from Josh Allen to Mac Hollins right there in the front corner of the end zone.
Very little defense. Great throw, but I thought the defense was so bad on that. Travis Ward was just kind of holding on to him a little bit, and Mac Hollins had tons of room to his open side on the left side there where he wasn't really pressed up against the sideline. Even when he toe tapped, I thought, boy, he has a lot more room than he thought he had. I just thought I thought it was an awful defensive play. Even the one that gets run in there by James Cook on like Travis Ward sort of bit hard in, and there's nobody on the outside. There's nobody on that right side in terms of receiver on that left side from where he's standing. It was just, I just thought some of the coverage on that. You're right about the throw, but the Mac Hollins touchdown, I just felt the coverage was awful.
Yes, but and again, no pressure. on third and goal from the 7 when, again, if you can get off the field there and force the Bills to kick a field goal, it's 17-3. And look, you're still down 2 touchdowns, but the Niners have shown, and I mean, even tonight, they come out and the long kickoff return from Deebo Samuel. If it's 17-3 at that point, and again, we're doing the whole ifs and buts thing, which you don't like to do, but if you hold them down 17-3 and then you're able to punch it in when Juice coughs it up, and all of it, I mean, there was a pathway to 17-10, but again, the Niners are just losing every critical moment in every game right now, whether it's Geno Smith taking it in on a final drive or the swing moments in Green Bay when it looked like the Niners were getting back in that game late first half, early second half, and it happened again in this one back into the second quarter and the early part of the third quarter, and it winds up looking ugly at the end of the night, 35-10.
49ers fall, as JD just mentioned, 35-10 at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. They fall to 5-7. The Rams did win today. The Seahawks won today. The Cardinals lost today. And now back-to-back weeks, the Niners have just been run all over. Last week it was Josh Jacobs. This week, I mean, fair to say it was everybody. Josh Allen did it today.
Yeah.
You had Ray Davis do it today, the Bay Area native. And then, of course, James Cook goes for a 65-yard touchdown run and over 100 in the first half. 808 KNBR is the number to call. How we feeling, Niner fans? JD says still a glimmer of hope that you could run the table here and win 10 games, and that could get you in. That would be enough because it would mean head-to-head wins over the Rams and the Cardinals. I'm not so – I mean, I don't know that anybody's optimistic about that, but JD's saying he's not there until they get that 8th loss. Let's go to Alex in Porterville. Alex, what's going on, man? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, what's up, guys, man? I'm glad to hear you guys speaking gospel truth, man. I've been a Niner fan for 65 years, and I've seen a lot of people come and go, ups and downs, so – I just keep an even keel, Niner fan for life, man, no matter what. But I was beat writer for the Niners to observe something tonight. Jed York was seen, man, shaking hands with coaches and players and stuff afterwards. And, of course, he's got to keep it positive. But, man, Eddie D would have gone off the rails. And I think that as far as culture is concerned, from top to bottom, we can talk about, having a chance, and hopefully, keep hope alive in the next 5 games. But really, when you think about what the Niners lost in free agency this year and what they did as far as bringing guys in, I just think this is all, man, on York and Kyle and John as far as just basically the cupboard is bare right now. When everybody was saying the Niners had this best, roster in football, that was BS, bro. You could see it. And now everyone is really seeing because there's nothing there. It's almost like a sick or ranked team. You can't stop the run. You can't stop the run. There's no D lineman. And I know guys are hurt. I get all that. But, there's other clubs in the NFL, and especially with Walsh and Seifert in the 80s. Yeah, when things were down, they were down, but they were never down like this. This was embarrassing, man.
Okay, Alex, so I'm with you on some of the points you said. Now, I want to counter one of the things, and I'm with you on the talent on the defensive side of the ball because, and people who blame Kyle for that and say, well, you're the head coach, you got to draft better, I think it would be foolish to assume that every draft pick Kyle has final say on. I don't think Kyle, I think we all know Kyle, didn't choose to take Jake Moody in the 3rd round. What I would say is, to me, a lot of that falls on John Lynch. You're the Hall of Fame defender. You're the guy who's the general manager. When there's defensive linemen, point out a defensive lineman that's been excellent that they've taken, with the exception of Nick Bosa, who everybody would have taken in that position, right? They've missed on a few of those. So I'm with you. And drafting is weird, but that's neither here nor there. I would say that also they found guys like Azeez Al-Shire. They've done great with guys who are undrafted. They've done great in the later rounds. Who those picks fall on isn't really important. The one thing I would say is that if you want to blame Kyle and John for culture, that's one thing, because I don't really know about as much of the culture in the locker room. I feel like it's a group of guys who wouldn't have been to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship back-to-back years if you had bad culture. What I would say is I don't want any owner of any of my teams, Alex, anywhere near the culture of my team. The Niners have been the best off they've been since Jed York decided I'm not the guy involved in tinkering with what the head coach wants to do. The worst organizations in football, and we can joke about it, the Cowboys are a joke, man. And they're a joke because their owner has decided he's in charge of what happens on the field. We don't want that.
Was it the Cowboys?
That's the Cowboys, of course. But if we could go to the Carolina Panthers, same sort of thing. There's a few teams that are like that where owners, the New York Jets, a perfect example. Woody Johnson's like, get me the best players. Your quarterback's 41 years old. They're aging. They're bad. They fired a head coach with the best defense in football, and he's a defensive-minded guy. I'm okay with putting the blame on the brass that is Kyle and John, but I would just say my biggest counter is keep all the owners away from the culture of my team and just sign the checks, bro. That's all I need you to do.
Okay, so you saying that, and I know you followed the Niners in the '80s, and when Eddie D got that team, Eddie D, man, despite the fact, yeah, he kind of meddled and stuff like this, but Eddie D had passion, man.
Yeah, I feel you.
Eddie D had a lot of things, man, going on for him, and it just really just trickled down, coaching staff, people who work in the office, the janitor, custodian, all the way down, man, to all those guys. That was an incredible organization in the '80s. And John McVay was incredible. And John McVay's son should be coaching this team as far as I'm concerned. But, yes, you're right. Lynch hasn't been called out, man, as much as they need to be, because he's made some decisions that are really, really, really just tragic as far as what these Niners have, as far as what they have as a team roster. I mean, the Trey Lance thing.
Yeah, that might have been more of a call. Alex, we do got to run. I appreciate the call, man. But I would say that, again, I know that everything's heavy like right now because they're losing, and it doesn't feel like they have depth. I actually feel like this last draft class is one of the best draft classes they've had in some time, right? I mean, again, you're getting production from guys like Malik Mustafa. The problem is that you're not anticipating that a lot of these guys would have had to play for as long as they had, and maybe that's the issue, is they were banking too much on guys like Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga to come back healthy. They banked on the defensive line that was thin at best, certainly in terms of the depth of that D-line. Leonard Floyd was not, even with Nick Bosa out there, which you were hoping and needed him to be. And so, yeah, it hasn't been a good defense. We got to run, but we'll do more. We'll get you the injury report, and we got plenty more to come here as the Niners fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. It's not a fun day. Hasn't been a fun couple of weeks for the 49ers. And maybe even more importantly, we'll talk about this next. McCaffrey down with a PCL injury. And while we don't know the status officially of it, it just doesn't feel good. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, who's live from Buffalo. Niners lose 35-10 on the Sports Leader.
First and 10, 29-yard line. Hamlin coming down, showing a blitz off the edge. They tossed to McCaffrey the other way, and he just slipped down. He went into a slot. Is he all right? McCaffrey's hobbling off the field.
He's not.
Christian McCaffrey took a 18 toss going right, 2 steps into it.
No, it was non-contact. Something happened without question with Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, what happened? He took the toss going right.
It was like his 4th step. Something gave out on him, and he knew it and went
He just
right
went
to the
down.
ground.
That was the play. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. JD was there on hand to see it live at Orchard Park, with the Niners fell 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. And we'll make this our injury report, sponsored by Habas Law. They'll fight to make it right. Visit habaslaw.com, and by Mike Council Plumbing. When you need plumbing, think green and go with Mike Council Plumbing online at mcplumbing.com. McCaffrey leaves the game with what they're calling a PCL injury. They'll do some imaging on it. We'll find out more, hopefully, I would assume tomorrow, as terms of what the diagnosis is. It's at the very least a few weeks, and with the way the season's going, I'm not sure it'll make much sense at any point to bring him back, regardless of the level of health. If it's more serious than that, it's a more serious problem for the 49ers than a 28-year-old running back who they just handed a restructured new guaranteed money deal to prior to the start of this year. And a lot of the aging talent appears to be aging, and a lot of the expensive talent has not lived up to where it needs to be or has been hurt. JD, what'd you see on that play where McCaffrey went down?
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like he got tripped up. I thought initially, like you said, it looked like maybe he hit his knee on the ground on that carry. This
and he
was
banged it, yeah.
Like it looked like he hit it. And it looked like, again, a play that was dialed up. Everybody I've talked to thought that play was going for a touchdown, but he just got tripped up there. That, to me, was the play where it happened, and I think, immediately my thought was, I hope it's not the Achilles. And the way he hopped up, immediately went to the tent, and then ultimately to the locker room. You knew it was significant at that point. Like, I didn't think, even though they ruled him questionable pretty quickly, that we were going to see him at all.
I didn't either, no.
Again, for the rest of the night at a minimum. I think on the one hand, you might say PCL, considering it's not the Achilles, it's not another part of the knee like the ACL or anything like that. Initially, I guess you could say it's positive news in a sense, but regardless, again, this 49ers team is going to have to win a couple of games without him, and then hope that they can, still have a season worth playing for at a point in which he could return. The reality is we have very likely, if not officially, because we can't say it officially, but we very likely have seen the last of Christian McCaffrey for the 2024 season. I don't think that's a crazy thing to put out there.
I would be a little bit surprised just based on where the 49ers are as a team. They're not contending right now. So if they were contenders, you're like, yeah, get him back, see what he can do, how much can he help you. But regardless of the level of injury right now, you want him for next year, and the way the season's going now, it might be a lost cause. 808 KNBR is the number to call, 415-808-5627. Larry Krueger is going to join us momentarily. Chip is in Clovis. We got him there, Tim? Chip is in Clovis. What's up, Chip? You're on KNBR.
Hey, what's going on? Really, I just wanted to say that, look, the NFL is hard, and you're not going to always – I mean, these guys are – the athletes on the top of the world, and they're millionaires. And the bottom line is we're kind of spoiled around here. So the bottom line is we just need to keep everything together. There's no need for everybody to freak out. It's not our year. That's all.
What,
anyway,
Chip, what does piss you off? What gets under your skin? You're clearly a Niner fan. I get what you're saying. You're going big picture. Like, yeah, everything you're saying is true. They're playing a game, or, people are bummed. I'm just asking, like, in general. Like, you seem like a very measured guy.
Yeah, no, trust me, I'm not mature enough. Otherwise, yeah. I've had my bad moments, even tonight and throughout the season, but they need us and we need them.
So you lost it. You lost it at one point during the game tonight. You were like, you were irate. You were just, something infuriated you.
Yeah, I got really upset at, when Isaac Guerendo scored that touchdown, I thought to myself, man, we could have used that 5 other times this year.
So you were pissed when they scored. You got pissed officially when they scored because you were like, damn, this is too little too late. We needed this elsewhere.
Well, a tiny little part of me is just like every other fan and yourself, where it's just like Kyle's hubris might sometimes be too much. But here's the thing. He's a professional. They're all professionals. We're fans. this is a really wonderful team and organization. They need us right now. Things are tough. It's probably not going to be great this year. We're watching it. And we'll just have to, run it back next year. But nobody needs to go anywhere. These guys are world class. All of us. All of this. Everyone on this team is world class. It's just, zoom out. You can't go to the playoffs every year. That's just the way it is.
Appreciate the call, Chip. Thanks, man. I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew, Chip. Chip, hell of a call there. He got a little fired up at the end there.
He did. Look, we can have the conversation about evaluating who is in the fold for next year and who's not. I just don't think it's a real interesting conversation. We know, as you look at, let's just start with the 49ers offense, Copes. I'll hand some of these to you, right?
Yeah.
Brock Purdy's going to be the quarterback in 2025, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I expect that, yeah.
Here's one I have for you, though, on Brock Purdy. We can extend the conversation here. Is Brock Purdy still a $55 to $60 million quarterback?
That's a question I asked the last week. Can he do anything? Has he done anything to lose any money, and can he do anything to lose any money? Again, I don't believe they lost last week's game because of Brandon Allen. I don't think he looked good. I don't think he looked great. I don't think he looked like a starter. But I think that it's not an indictment on Brock, but it's certainly I don't know that he would have been that much different in that game last week. I don't know if the result is that much different. And again, This is a snow game, and he went out and played a Super Bowl caliber team. And this game's not all on Brock's shoulders or anything like that. But it's to me, it's less about
season.
It's about the price of doing business with quarterbacks, kind of now. If you don't have Brock, who do you have, and who are you going with? Is it Kirk Cousins? Are you making that trade this offseason?
Well, no, I'll give you a third option. I'll give you the third option is. And it's not another player, but it's Brock Purdy, but you don't do the extension just because he's extension eligible. What if it's Brock Purdy, but you tell Brock Purdy, hey, you're going to play out another year on your deal, and we're going to see how things go, and you're going to make, a little over $1 million for 2025, and then we'll see where things end up and do an extension with you or a new contract or a franchise tag or whatever the heck it is. Moving forward,
they'd have to tag because it's a bad problem. It's a bad problem to have an unrestricted free agent quarterback coming off a good year. I mean, you'd have to tag him if he wouldn't reach a deal with you, or you'd have to overpay.
But then you're getting you're betting on the good year that you get from him in 2025. I guess again, all I'm saying is he came into the year, I think, a $55 to $60 million quarterback. This team has not lived up to expectations. I don't think Brock Purdy by any stretch has been bad, but he also hasn't continued to elevate. Now, part of that is the team around him isn't as good, but part of somebody being a $55 to $60 million quarterback is his ability to elevate. It's a topic of conversation. I do think there's going to be more of a debate over the next month and then on into the offseason, unless the 49ers just get on a run and Brock Purdy gets hot. Let's say they win 4 of these last 5 games and somehow they sneak in at 9-8, win the division, win a playoff game. At that point, I think it would become a no-brainer again. All right, yeah, it's the price of doing business in the NFL, but I just wonder, knowing how Kyle Shanahan has fallen in and out of love with quarterbacks, would the 49ers be comfortable paying for that price for a quarterback that, when you haven't had all of the eligibles around him at the highest level, has not performed at the same level that he has the last couple of years?
If I had to guess, to your point, it will be a discussion on KNBR. You're listening to Adam Copeland, John Dickinson. 49ers fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills, and it did not look good. And again, they're not mathematically eliminated, but a glimmer of hope if they were to run the table, but they've shown nothing, especially now with the exit of Christian McCaffrey, a PCL injury. We'll catch up with our guy Larry Krueger, Niners Nightly, and the Krueger Show. He'll join us next on the Sports Leader.
I don't think it's that difficult at all. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're as desperate as they come to try to just get a win. Like, so I'm down for whatever. Like, I just want to win. I could care less about anything else. So whatever they need me to do, whatever we need the team to do, like, let's just do that and let's get one win.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. JD live from Orchard Park with the Niners fell 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. Let's get you the postgame interview sponsored by the Handlery Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. We tried to get Joe Montana, but he couldn't do it. So we got Larry Krueger, who you can hear Niners Nightly 6 to 7 Monday to Friday weeknights on KNBR and, of course, on the Krug Show. Krug, I mean, I'd say insult to injury, but more injury to injury. Niners fell in a way that I think if people were looking at this game and expected them to lose, the score is kind of what people might have thought this would have been. The real bummer here is how Christian McCaffrey looked in those couple of drives before he goes down with what they're now calling a PCL injury. And I think JD and I, regardless of the status of that injury, find it hard to believe we'd see a lot of him, if at all, for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, I mean, they'll probably shut him down. He's got double Achilles tendonitis. He now has a PCL strain to some degree. I don't think that they're going to utilize him a lot between now and the end of the year. And he looked great. I mean, they struggled to run the ball the last couple weeks, and that was a problem. Does that mean that Ben Barch and Jalen Moore are an upgrade on the left side of the line from Trent and Banks? Because they sure ran it better with Barch and with Jalen Moore than they did the last couple weeks. And, you know, just a very disappointing game. The 49ers, I wasn't expecting the Niners to win. You know, it took everything in my power to not wager on this game against the Niners because I just felt like it was a lock that Buffalo was going to win this game. But I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I couldn't bet against the Niners. But I just didn't think they were going to have much of a shot. And sure enough, they didn't have much of a shot. They ran the ball effectively, but they can't stop the run at all. I mean, my goodness, Nick Sorensen, what's wrong with your defense? You cannot stop the run at all. Nobody shows like they're interested in getting in front of anybody. Jair Brown took a terrible angle on one of those long gainers. Renardo Green played hurt, so I credit him. But, yeah, I mean, what has happened to this awesome linebacking core? It's no longer awesome. And what's happened to this 49er defensive front that was so menacing and now is just so forgettable? I mean, they had no sacks of Allen, one hit all day on Josh Allen. So, I mean, it's just and this is not the only game they've no-showed.
No, and look, Larry, no Nick Bosa means no pass rush. Their interior defensive line, we've talked about it all year. They've got nobody that can stuff the run on the defensive line. And as far as the linebacking core goes, the reality is Fred Warner's playing on a fractured ankle. Dre Greenlaw hasn't played a lick all year. And Jalen Graham and D. Winters aren't very good. They're not NFL players. And Devondre Campbell is not really, at this point, an NFL player. So they've got no linebackers, even though they've got a couple of young guys that some people are high on, and a guy in Devondre Campbell who shows why nobody really wanted him in the offseason after a couple of difficult years. And then, you know what? The other part is, you mentioned Jair Brown. Jair Brown's really struggling. Like, I think we got to start looking at maybe the secondary a little bit and the safeties in particular. And, you know, I think you can look at the corners and say there's something there with Green. Obviously, Lenore's great. They're going to have to move on from Charvarius Ward likely in the offseason as he's a free agent. But I think as far as the safeties go, they're going to have to take a look at, is Jair Brown really a starting safety in the NFL next year? Is Malik Mustafa really ready to be an every down starting safety? Like, they're going to have to take a hard look. I think maybe we have overrated some of these younger players a little bit, in particular the linebacking core and in the secondary.
Well, I think what's happening is no different than what happened a couple of years ago with the Warriors. Young guys, when the depth gets depleted and the injuries start to happen, young guys start getting minutes that they never earned. And when you get minutes and run that you didn't earn, you don't typically improve because you are like, hey, I'm getting run. What do I need to improve? But yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, Brown has played a lot in his young career out of necessity, and it's not necessarily out of earning it. It's just out of being, healthy and physical and willing. But there's still a lot of improvement left for him to make in his game, and you've seen that the last month or so. So I like him as a guy. I like him as a player, but it's possible that this team has 3 strong safeties and no free safety, and that they really need a free safety and somebody who can play a little coverage. And then maybe guys will slot in a little bit, more correctly. But to me, the big difference, if you want to say, like, what's the big difference? Last year, their linebackers were awesome. And this year, and 2 years ago, they were spectacular with Azeez and Greenlaw and Warner. Now you take away Greenlaw and Azeez, and Warner's worn down, and you suddenly went from these Studley 3 linebackers that were the toast of the league and the absolute, the cutting edge players to you're pretty bad at linebacker, and you can't stop the run. I mean, they have not been able to stop the run. These runners, I mean, Jacobs is a hell of a player last week, but I mean, James Cook is a good runner. He's nothing special. Ray Davis is a nice runner. He's nothing. This is not Walter Payton or Eric Dickerson in their prime. You know what I mean? They're making these backs look way, way better than they are.
Talking to Larry Krueger, we were talking before we got you on, Krug, about Brock Purdy, and I think the question came up after 2 weeks ago when they lost to Seattle and his performance in that game, but the thought of what he's going to get paid this offseason, and JD just asked, do you think it's possible that they've either lost money or that Brock has played himself out of money, or that the Niners would maybe make a different decision this offseason in terms of how they go about paying him, maybe waiting a year and franchise tagging? Is there a scenario where Brock Purdy plays himself out of the money that we thought he was going to earn this offseason?
Well, it's a good question. We know the way this thing works. You get, when it's your turn to get paid, you get paid at the top of the scale, and then over time it starts to look like a better deal. The Miami Dolphins paid Tua Tagovailoa $53 million. Brock Purdy is as good as Tua Tagovailoa. There's no doubt in my mind. So are the Niners going to pay Brock Purdy $53 million? I guarantee you his agent's going to ask for $53 million. You think you're going to get him for 35? I don't think so. You think you're going to get him for 40, 45? I don't think so. So maybe the 49ers are going to play hardball and say, you know what, we need to know a little bit more definitively what we're getting. If we're going to pay you $53 million a year, we need to wait. And maybe they'll make him play next year and make him wait. I don't know if that's in their best interest or not. I'm not really sure. I would say the quarterback room for me next year, because you're going to pay Brock at some point. So the room's got to be cheap. So Dobbs is gone, Allen's gone, and I would just probably have Brock, Mordecai, and a couple rookies that I like. I like Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. I like Haynes King from Georgia Tech. They both played very, very well this weekend. They're both athletic. They're both really next-level movers. I'd go get a couple young quarterbacks, because here's the bottom line on this thing. You're not sure about Brock, and you need to rebuild your roster and somehow outduel these teams like Detroit and Green Bay, who are younger and more talented. Well, how are you going to do that? You're only going to do that is if either Brock plays great, and how are you going to get Brock to play great? Well, you got to maybe have some competition, so there's somebody that you can go to if he doesn't play great, and then go look for some young quarterbacks. I mean, the one thing, it's hard to find a good young quarterback, but if you do, man, I mean, there's reclamation quarterbacks, there's non-first round quarterbacks, there's all kinds of guys out there. If you can stumble on some guy, you might be able to turn around and trade that guy in a year for, a couple high picks, and you might be able to accelerate any rebuild that you need to do by getting the quarterback position right. So I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason as far as the quarterback position in the Niners is concerned.
Yeah, I would imagine they're going to end up looking at some veteran to be determined, right? Somebody that ends up being a cast-off from somewhere that comes in kind of in that Sam Darnold-ish role, and then you keep Mordecai around. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did at some point draft a quarterback or sign another free agent quarterback to maybe come in and just be the fourth guy or be the fourth guy with Mordecai potentially in there as well. As you look at just what's left to evaluate, because Matt Barrows of The Athletic wrote, hey, for basically everybody talking about how the Niners should pack it in and play the young guys, they're kind of already playing the young guys in a lot of different spots. Let's assume for a second that this season is done, Larry, for all intents and purposes as far as the playoffs go. What are you looking forward to among the guys that are going to have to play out the string and who needs to solidify themselves a spot next year, and who maybe that we haven't seen a lot of that could start to get some run if the 49ers decide they're out of it, would you have your eye on?
Well, I mean, you got to first decide what what is the plan at quarterback? Is Brock in your plan as far as is he your guy, or are you going to try to go find somebody else? Is he? I'll say this: Colin Cowherd had a stat the other day that of the last 21 quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl, like 18 of the 21 were Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. So then I think you got to ask: Is Brock Purdy good enough? Can you win? Do you feel like you can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy? And I think the answer
that kind of goes back to the pay him $55 million or not question, though, right? Like, because I'm with you. I think it's more and more they might play it out and make him play the year out.
I mean, if you're gonna, there's nothing wrong with saying before I'm going to pay you $60 million or $55 million a year, I'd like a little bit more cost certainty. Okay, so that's one thing. But there's a lot of young players on this team that are going to be good players to watch. Guerendo for sure, Mason for sure. Those two young guys are going to be guys I want to look at. You got to see more from Cowing. You got to see more from Pearsall. You may want to take a look at Nugent at center for Jake Brendel. You're playing almost all the guys on defense that, just because those guys are already playing. So I think on defense, there's nobody really to put in there. Though I would like to see Jalen Graham and D. Winters play over Campbell because, D. Winters and Jalen Graham theoretically could get better. Campbell is on the downside and is probably not going to get better. So, some of those players, it's not like they've got this idea that the Niners have all these young players that are awesome and are just sitting around waiting to play and that they're not playing because, that's just not reality. Maybe there's a couple guys on offense, but for the most part, they're putting their best talent on the field. They are going to have to find out what exactly is Brock, what is Pearsall, what is Cowing, how good's Evan Anderson, how good's Graham, how good's Winters. Are any of these safeties a free safety? Who are their starters a year from now if Mooney's not going to be in the mix at corner? So they've definitely got, and maybe you'd flesh out some guys off the waiver wire that maybe you'd say goodbye to a guy like Campbell. Maybe you'd go pick up a couple of young players that you have your eye on between now and the end of the year. I could definitely see that.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. JD live from Buffalo. We're talking to Larry Krueger. Niners Nightly, weeknight 6 to 7 on KNBR. And, of course, the Krug Show. I just know things are going bad for the Niners when Krueger's talking Haynes King from Georgia Tech on December 1st. Things can't be going well. Krueger, it might be time
It's never a good thing when Haynes King gets brought up in November.
I was really hoping you weren't going to have to watch any Hayden Birdsong video until after Christmas, but I think you might have to start heating that thing up, bro.
I could be jonesing for some Birdsong before the end of the evening.
Larry Krueger, the voice you hear. You'll hear him tomorrow on Niners Nightly, 6 to 7.
That is not good.
I'm jonesing for some Birdsong already, dude. I'm already thinking Birdsong.
Larry, if you're firing up the Hayden Birdsong, I may have to skip my hit on Niners Nightly this week.
We're talking Birdsong on the outside black. All right, Krueger, have a good night, man. Enjoy your next 3 watches of this one. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, see you guys. Hopefully, just remember, things get better from here.
Maybe they do.
Thanks, Larry.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. Larry Krueger here, Niners Nightly, weeknight 6 to 7. Still got a player of the game, a drive of the game, and we'll tell you what's on tap, or we won't. Adam Copeland, JD here. 49ers fall 35-10 to Buffalo on the Sports Leader.
Now Josh Allen, quick throw and a catch. It was behind Amari Cooper. He laterals it back to Josh Allen, who will dive for the pylon. Is he in? Touchdown Buffalo. Did he score on that play?
He did.
Amari Cooper caught the slant. It was behind him. He was going to be tackled, and he lateraled it back to the quarterback.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen runs in 7 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, just backyard ball.
How did that happen? How many quarterbacks could do that?
Not many, but one of them you saw tonight. Josh Allen runs for a touchdown on his own. He threw for a touchdown, of course, and one of the touchdowns he threw for was one that he ran in himself. Pass to Amari Cooper, toss back, as JD pointed out. In the receiving portion of the box score, Josh Allen, 0 catches, 0 targets, 7 yards, and a touchdown scored. Runs for one, throws for one, and catches one, technically. Goes in off of a pass that he threw. And I don't know if there's anybody else who can make the player of the game, sponsored by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. You okay with that, JD, going with the Buffalo Bill as the player of the game here?
Yeah, as long as it's not a Dodger, I'm okay with it. And so, play of the game, probably the MVP of the league, Josh Allen. So I'm good with that because I think he is going to be the MVP of the league.
Are you off of Lamar Jackson? They lost today.
I got Allen over. I think this is setting up for the Bills maybe to get the number 1 seed and Allen to be the best player on the best team, at least in the AFC. I don't think there's anybody on the Lions that's going to get it. And so it kind of feels like it's Josh Allen's MVP to lose right now.
Yeah.
Plus, Lamar's already got a couple.
Yeah, and they don't really do the NBA thing where it's like, well, it's your turn. You know what I mean? Like the NBA kind of goes around the merry-go-round.
Right.
Like, yeah, this guy's due. Like did Westbrook get 2 or did he just get the 1?
I think he just got the 1 when he averaged the triple-double, but that was...
But he'd averaged a triple-double. He's done it like 3 times. Then once he did it, it was like, okay, well, he's already done it, so he got his. Like, let's just give it to somebody else now, right? I was like, but nobody's done it in forever. Now he does like 3 years in a row, and it's no big deal. It's like Shohei Ohtani. Like, they're just going to keep giving them to him because nobody's ever seen anything he's done, but he just keeps doing new crap. So Josh Allen certainly has cut down on his turnovers this year. Didn't turn it over today. Back-to-back weeks, the Niners did not force a turnover. 3 fumbles today. Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, and Kyle Juszczyk all fumble it. And a couple of really, really crucial ones. And Niners get even more banged up. Really, the big issue today is the injury to Christian McCaffrey. I mean, many issues, of course, football-wise. But McCaffrey now down with a PCL injury, and a lot more questions, I think, will arise surrounding the 49er roster as we get to the offseason, especially the one that involves Brock Purdy. We'll talk more about this one. JD is live from Orchard Park where the Niners fell 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson on the Sports Leader.
Here's they're going to throw it back to Guerendo after a play-action fake to Pearsall, and Guerendo will run it down the left sideline and get in the end zone for a Niner touchdown. Did he take it all the way in? He's in for a touchdown.
You cannot teach speed, and Guerendo has got all of it.
Isaac Guerendo took one in for a touchdown today. We'll make that our drive of the game. Sponsored by El Cerrito Honda, more than just a car dealership. JD, we're family. 49ers fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. And for those who wanted more Ike Guerendo and more JP Mason, you got him, huh?
Yeah, you got him. And Mason, I thought, performed pretty well in his 13 carries for 78 yards, 28-yard long on the game. But, unfortunately, for the Niners in a season that's been full of, a couple of things start going well and another thing goes wrong. Tonight was the first night McCaffrey looked like McCaffrey, and then McCaffrey goes down, and by default, you get to see a lot more Mason and Guerendo when you really would have been perfectly content having a lot more McCaffrey, given the way he started the game.
Well, what's so frustrating is I think I said to you last week, and I've echoed this today, and we've said it for weeks, is that the only thing, I said watching the scoreboard before the game, looking at what the Rams do, what the Cardinals and the Seahawks do, the point is kind of moot because it's not like the Niners are winning games. If they were winning games and the other teams were keeping pace, then you're like, all right, you're in this, you got to pay attention to what they're doing. Hopefully you jump a game on them here and there, and then you get a chance to play them head-to-head again. Of course, already played Seattle twice, but a chance at the Rams and Seattle. But the point is moot if you can't win games. What I said to you last week was I need to start seeing something that would give me hope. What would give you hope if we saw it today from the Niners? And I think my point last week was if McCaffrey starts looking like McCaffrey, he's the type of guy paired with Purdy that could put the team on their shoulders and say, at least offensively, we can be in some of these games. On the defense, and there's other big problems. But if you're just looking for 10 wins, and that shouldn't be that difficult, you'd think with the perceived talent entering the season on the roster and the makeup of the NFC West. But when you look at what they were able to do or not able to do, they couldn't move the ball. Today we saw from McCaffrey, and I almost had that glimmer, that thought, and 7 for 53 yards, 7.5 a carry, and several of them, it wasn't like one big one and then a couple of spurts. He had a few runs that looked like him. He had a 12-yard screen pass that looked pretty good on a pass that he caught, and he got into some space and carried some guys. So, again, I don't know that had he finished the game and looked great and they lost, that I would feel much different about the way the season's going. But the one glimmer of hope that seemed like maybe like an ace up their sleeve or something they could hope to happen that would change some fortune, it now appears to be gone with a PCL injury.
Yeah, now it's gone, and you get blown out again, and you still have a bunch of other guys out all up and down the roster, and you look up, and you're 5-7, which is just, it's ugly. And, quick glance, I know nobody wants to really do it right now at the standings, but the 49ers, 11th now in the NFC.
Oh, you went NFC. I was going to say,
Rams.
In the NFC West standings, they didn't move in case you were looking for a check for the score.
No, they're at the bottom. They're at the bottom with the Rams and Cardinals directly above them. Tampa Bay 6-6, and then obviously the Commanders are that final wild card right now at 8-5. But I think we can pretty much write off catching the Commanders. It's that one thing I will concede here on December 1st and now 2nd on the East Coast here in Western New York and Buffalo. I think it's division or bust for the 49ers here.
I think it was division or bust before. I really didn't see them jumping enough teams to get into it in the wild card. I thought it was going to take 10 wins to win the division at the very least, and now Seattle has put themselves a little bit ahead. And the Rams, we talked about who's the biggest threat. They're potentially still a problem or a threat as well. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, who is live from Orchard Park in Buffalo. JD, I know you got to run. Thanks for hanging today, man, and we'll see you this week. Safe trip back.
Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Adam Copeland, JD with you. Niners fall 35-10. We'll put a bow on this one when we come on back, only here on the Sports Leader.
For sure. I mean, every game's got to be must-win for us. We don't have any room, clearly, if we want to make the playoffs and get ahead and do the thing that we've set out to do before the season, man. Every win's got to be a must-win, and so that's plain as day, and we all know that. So, like I said, we all just got to be accountable and grow from it, and we don't have a lot of room for error right now. We got to go. So.
49ers fall 35-10 to the Buffalo Bills. And again, if you were looking at ways for them to get into the playoffs, if you still had that hope, it falls a little further today out of the grasp, especially after a win by the Rams and a win by the Seattle Seahawks. Niners chasing games and head-to-head scores with these teams. And again, have shown very little, especially now with the injury to Christian McCaffrey, the PCL injury. We'll find out more about that after they get back to Levi Stadium and to Santa Clara to get some imaging done on that. But just more injury to injury for the 49ers. Already did not have Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Demo Lenore today. They get Charvarius Ward back. He had a really tough game in the secondary. But again, it's like 2 or 3 straight weeks now of rough games for the defense. Niners scored 10 this week, 10 last week, 17 the week before against the Seattle Seahawks. And things have just gone from bad to worse. I think we'd all be a little surprised, regardless of the status of the injury, if McCaffrey's back this year, just based on the status of the team as it stands right now. Make sure you keep it locked all week long right here on KNBR, The Sports Leader, streaming on twitch.tv/The Sports Leader, KNBR.com, the KNBR app, and watching and streaming at all times on our KNBR YouTube channel. Keep it locked all week. Murph and Marcus get going tomorrow, 6 to 10 a.m. Greg and Greg from 10 to 2. And then our brand new show, Dirty Work, with myself and Derek Papa. Greg Papa. Well, yeah, make sure you cut that, Tim. And D-Pop starts at 2 o'clock, 2 to 6, every day, Monday through Friday. And then Larry Krueger, 6 to 7 on Niners Nightly, followed by Sports Phone KNBR. We're going to sign off here. We'll be back, as I said, tomorrow, 6 a.m. with Murph and Marcus. Big thanks to Ryan, who was out there today cutting. Thanks to Kyle and Kyle. Thanks to Tim. And Overnight Dave, who's just sitting back there. No piano key beanie, dude. Where's my price of admission, Dave? I know you got
a personality like a dead moth.
Yeah, that's it, Dave. Overnight Dave hanging out. Good to see you, bro. Until we meet again tomorrow, 10 to 2, the brand new show with myself and Derek Papa. 6 to 10, Murph and Marcus. And then you got Greg and Greg from 10 to 2. Niners fall 35 to 10 at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. And the sports continue right here on The Sports Leader.